Maya Torres woke to the first hint of spring sunlight spilling through the blinds of her small riverside apartment, only to be confronted by a sight that made her stomach knot in an unfamiliar way. Across the side wall of her building, someone, or something, had left a strange, swirling drawing that seemed to throb in the morning light. The lines were sharp but fluid, almost organic, looping into one another in a pattern that her brain instinctively recognized as deliberate, though she couldn't place why it felt so threatening. She rubbed her eyes and stepped closer, noticing the symbols etched faintly around the spiral, tiny, precise marks that could easily be dismissed as scratches, but her gut screamed that every one of them mattered. Jonah Reed, her neighbor and friend, arrived minutes later, camera slung around his neck, his expression a mixture of curiosity and unease. He crouched beside the wall, snapping photos from different angles, muttering to himself about symmetry and lines, as if the act of recording it could somehow explain the impossible. Maya's heart raced as she realized the drawing seemed to pulse ever so slightly, almost like it had a heartbeat of its own. A cold breeze swept the narrow street, and for a moment, the building felt alive, as though it was aware that someone was looking. The discovery of the drawing had ignited a sense of urgency that Maya couldn't shake. She and Jonah spent the day combing the surrounding streets, scanning walls, windows, and lampposts for anything similar. By afternoon, their search bore fruit. Faint, barely visible markings appeared on a lamppost 2 blocks away and in the condensation of a cafe window, subtle enough to escape the casual eye but undeniable when they were looking for it. Jonah's excitement was tempered by unease, while Maya felt a rising dread that prickled along her spine. By evening, her younger brother Leo, a hacker who spent more time talking to machines than people, joined them, eyes scanning the data on his laptop with meticulous intensity. "These aren't random," he said, his voice calm but weighted with alarm. "There's a sequence here. Look, coordinates, dates, maybe even a countdown. Someone is leaving us a trail." As the sky turned orange with the setting sun, Maya felt a nagging fear that the next symbol could appear anywhere, even places she had passed just hours before. The sense of being watched, of a presence lingering just out of sight, was impossible to ignore. The tension escalated that night when a figure appeared near Maya's apartment building. Tall, gaunt, and cloaked in a dark hooded coat, he moved with a fluid, predatory grace that made every instinct in Maya scream danger. He didn't speak, didn't acknowledge their presence, but dropped a single scrap of paper near the building's entrance and melted back into the shadows before either of them could react. Jonah picked it up with trembling fingers. It was a sketch, almost identical to the wall drawing, with the word "watched" scrawled in jagged, deliberate letters. Maya's stomach turned. It wasn't a threat in the conventional sense, it was a message, a taunt, a signal that someone or something was aware of their movements, observing them. Leo peered over her shoulder, his glasses catching the streetlight, and frowned. "This isn't vandalism. Whoever, or whatever, is doing this wants us to follow it. And they're counting on us to make a mistake." The chill that ran through Maya wasn't just from the wind. It was the creeping realization that the city she thought she knew had suddenly become a maze designed to trap her. Days passed, and the trio realized the markings weren't confined to their street. Leo, combing through years of city maps, missing person reports, and archival images, discovered a pattern. Every symbol corresponded with locations where people had disappeared over the past 5 years. The symbols weren't just warnings, they were signs pointing to events, marking each site like a sinister breadcrumb trail. Maya's fear hardened into resolve. She traced the drawings on a mental map, seeing the paths crisscross the city like a web, with her own building squarely in the center. Jonah, who had initially treated the investigation as a kind of urban photography project, began to match her intensity, scanning each new symbol with the precision of someone preparing for combat. The walls themselves seemed to whisper, the spiral patterns almost hypnotic in the dim glow of streetlights, drawing the eye toward the center as if they contained a secret meant only for them. Every step forward felt like a step into deeper danger, but stopping was no longer an option. The symbols had chosen them, and leaving the game unfinished felt like surrendering to some unseen predator. Their search led them to an abandoned subway station, a cavernous place where shadows pooled in every corner and echoes distorted the faint hum of the city above. The spiral symbol appeared again, this time glowing faintly on a cracked concrete wall. Maya's pulse hammered in her chest as Jonah darted forward, chasing a dark figure that moved with impossible speed through the columns. She hesitated at the edge of the platform, the cold metal railing biting into her hands, but something primal pushed her to follow. Leo stayed at the rear, flashlight cutting through the shadows, scanning for traps, for any clue that would keep them one step ahead. Every movement was tense, every sound, a potential threat. And then, as they reached the end of the platform, they found it, another message etched into the metal railing, sharp and deliberate: "You are next." The words felt alive, vibrating under her fingertips, a chilling promise that the line between hunter and hunted had shifted irrevocably. It was Evelyn March, a professor of ancient symbology whom Leo had contacted, who finally unraveled the layers of terror for them. She explained that the drawings were part of a centuries-old ritual practiced by a secretive group that had lingered in the city for generations, marking individuals for some obscure selection. The spiral, she said, represented a gateway, figurative or literal, and every marking was a signal to someone, or something, watching and waiting. Maya felt her stomach twist as she understood the implications. The markings weren't random, and their appearance on her building was no accident. Jonah clenched his fists, his earlier bravado gone, replaced by a tight-lipped worry that mirrored her own. Leo, ever analytical, scrolled through his database of symbols, seeing connections he hadn't noticed before, each one pointing to imminent danger. For the first time, Maya felt the city itself shift into something alien, every shadow and wall a potential threat, every passerby a silent witness to something she could barely comprehend. The final symbol appeared on her own apartment door, carved with the same meticulous care and the same pulsating intensity. Maya froze, Jonah grabbed her shoulder, and Leo positioned himself between them and the door, laptop open, fingers hovering over keys. The walls of the apartment seemed to vibrate as if alive, the spiral in the center of the door glowing faintly, a heartbeat in the darkness. Using Leo's improvised device, they disrupted the energy field long enough to pull open the door and escape. Outside, the street appeared normal, sun rising over the buildings, but Maya knew the danger was far from gone. The markings had vanished, but their message remained etched into her mind. They had survived the night, but the watchers were still out there, patient, silent, and far closer than she wanted to admit. Every wall, every street, every reflection could be the next sign, the next trap. And somewhere in the depths of the city, the spiral waited, ready to pulse again.